Good morning, gentlemen. It is so nice to be back on DWG. It's been quite a week. Lots of rain, lots of work, lots of long shifts and hard shifts, and both at home and work. But we're back with DWG today on Thursday, and it's the Thursday going into long weekend. We got a lot to talk about. So, where should we begin? Why don't we talk about last night's scores and events. So the Toronto Raptors lost 108-100 to the Milwaukee Bucks. And, a lot of people are maybe a little peeved or upset that they ended up losing the game. But I think the Raptors' first game on the road played really, really well. The only thing I'm a little worried about is Milwaukee had finished Boston off, and Milwaukee, they had a little bit of rust. You could tell they had a little bit of rust, and they started getting their shot going in the second half of the game. The other concerning thing with that is, and that the reason why the Toronto Raptors could and should have won last night or needed to win, is because starting on Friday, we're going to go every other day. So we're going to go Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. The Raptors are the older team, and if they're going to win this series, it's going to probably go at least 6, if not 7 games. And what I saw last night in the fourth quarter was a very tired Marc Gasol, and a couple of the guys, they just didn't have the gas, they didn't have the hops. And it affects everything. It affects your shot if you don't have the legs, your rhythm, all that kind of stuff. I will say this. Last night's game might have been the best playoff game I've ever seen Kyle Lowry play. There hasn't been a lot of great ones to begin with. But he was the hot hand. He was making shots when they counted in the back half of the game. Danny Green is afraid to make shots, and you can tell. He has not played very well. Marc Gasol has not played very well near the end of some of the games, and you can tell he's kind of like Chera. He's not quite as fleet of foot near the end of games, and he hasn't been making his three-point shots. They're giving him open looks, and they're not going down. So it's tough to lose to Milwaukee in the fashion that they did, knowing that they were leading for the better part of 3.5 quarters. It's also tough to see you lose a game when it's not Brogdon, when it's not Middleton, when it's not Bledsoe or Antetokounmpo. When those guys aren't the guys that beat you, especially Giannis, and it's Brooks Lopez. I mean, I could go on a rant, but I don't feel like it. But Brooks Lopez is a nice player. He's a really good player. But, I mean, when he's chucking up threes from Green Bay, I'm telling you, it's hard to watch because Brooks he's a 6'11", 7-footer who's never been known for three-point shooting. And he's making shots. And it's hard to lose that way when you're losing to a guy that's making shots. It would be equivalent to, Zdeno Chera going end to end, or even it would be like Zdeno Chera or Parenko or one of those big defensemen scoring on a breakaway twice in a game. Like, that's the equivalent of Brooks Lopez hitting threes near the end of the game to win for the Milwaukee Bucks. But they made their shots count at the end. The Raptors had their chance. They had an open look to get within one. It was 104-100. Kyle Lowry missed a 3. They come back down. They foul. 106-100. Game over. That was the game right there. That missed shot to open 3. So the Raptors are going to get regroup here, get rested up, and see if they can steal one on Friday night, game 2. So, they're going to have to win one in Milwaukee if they want to win the series. And if they come home on a split, you got to figure, you got to be feeling good for yourself if you come home on a split at this point, because if you're coming home with a split, that means you won game 2 and you could have won game 1. So, if you're winning 7 of 8 quarters or 6 of 8 quarters, and then you've got home court, that Raptors crowd's going to be loud on Sunday, and I think that'd be pretty electric and exciting. So that's all I got for the Raptors. Siakam, he'll get better, and some of the other guys, they put in some minutes. They got some minutes for Powell. They got some minutes for Van Vliet. But Danny Green, he's got to get his game. He's got to get his shot going, because he's starting to see some looks and he's not hitting. And Gasol is not making shots either. He's got to make those shots. So the other big thing last night, obviously the St. Louis and San Jose series. San Jose wins another very controversial game in what is quickly becoming a year of fate for Jumbo and the San Jose Sharks. So it was nice to see Jumbo Joe last night score 2 goals. It's the first multi-goal game, I should say, I think, in his playoff career, which is kind of surprising because he's had some really good years in playoffs. But I know there's been some other years where he's been playing on one leg and broken ribs and all that kind of stuff. So he's also that was the second time he scored three points in a game in the playoffs. So it's nice to see them win. Couture, another goal, big goal, and the controversy of the goal. You have to kind of rewind back. We're not talking about overtime and controversy of a goal. If Schwartz just puts the puck in the empty net, game over, St. Louis wins. And, they put the puck in the net, then we're not talking about Couture tying the game up, right? So, they had their look, and you can be mad all you want in the overtime by the call. But there's many series and parts to a game that give you the opportunity to win. St. Louis just had to put it in the open net. So, you can be mad and pissed off about it, but you have to be mad at yourself first for not finishing the game earlier, because that's really what it's about. So in terms of the goal, yes, everybody knows that it was a glove pass. I think it was hilarious that the refs ended up giving Timo Meier the second assist, which they should, because he assisted on the goal. He just illegally assisted on it. And a goal is a goal. If you noticed, Erik Karlsson didn't really cheer that much because he thought it would come back. And everyone can be mad at the refs, but I think what you're going to see in the summertime is you're going to see a lot of changes. So you're going to see that that goal, which was non-reviewable, has to be reviewable. And I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do it, whether it's a coach's challenge or all overtime goals are reviewable. It's kind of tough. Because you don't want to take away from the atmosphere, and guys are cheering and they got to put them all back on, but you got to get the call right. And last night would have been a perfect example of that call getting right. And you don't want to slow the game up. So I don't know, does each coach get 2 challenges? I don't know. To me, it's just very, very confusing that a play can be called back when a guy's toenail is 5 centimeters offside and the goal is scored like 2 minutes later on that flow play, but that you can't call back a clear illegal goal like last night with the hand pass. To me, that just doesn't make sense. Because if the NHL, the NHL is now losing some credibility with it. The players are losing trust with the refs. The NHL is losing credibility with its officiating in the playoffs, and it's becoming the narrative, right? So the narrative now is not the great players and the storylines and some of the great matchups like St. Louis and San Jose, but it's now becoming Vegas should have won this because of a bad call, and San Jose's winning this game because of a hand pass. And why isn't Brad Marchand getting any kind of suspension for all the antics that he's doing. He's just getting, oh, wait, you see, the next time you do this, you're going to get suspended. I mean, he's wrapping his stick around guys' throats and doing all kinds of stupid shit. And 2-minute calls, no calls. It's just the NHL needs to take a real good look at some of the plays. And yes, there's 4 guys on the ice, and yes, one of them should have and could have seen that play, but the bottom line is they missed it and they can't review it because of the rules. And I guess the hard part for me is you have to understand the game today is so much faster and the players are so big that it's so difficult for referees to make every single call correct. Like we look at the Charlie McAvoy play. That is a bang play, really fast. And there's a lot of plays that go throughout the game that in a split second you might not catch. And you have to make a decision based on the evidence, like the Pavelski bleeding from the ice. So, I mean, I feel bad for the refs because there are times when they need that video review. Now, I don't personally think that a goal should be called back if the guy's foot is a quarter inch offside. That to me is bullshit. I think it's like it is we're splitting hairs there, but then we're letting a guy, cut across the ice. We can only give him a 2-minute or gross misconduct, and he's taking the guy's head off. Or in last night's game, they're playing European handball. So there needs to be continuity with everything like that. And I think you're going to see the NHL make some drastic changes to the rules. Not so much the rules, but just ways to be able to eliminate some of these issues. And then, of course, the NHL, because of the salary cap going up, and then because of the number of RFAs and UFAs, which is both have amazing lists, I think you're going to see a lot of players change teams. And, we saw this year the changing of the guard in the playoffs from some of the years past, the last 3 or 4 years. You're going to see way more changing of the guard. Teams like Colorado, I think teams like Toronto, Carolina's got a great team. You're going to see some power shifting for sure. Power shifting. I think Tampa Bay still got a really good team. But there's windows closing in Washington and windows closing in Pittsburgh. They're going to be doing a lot of flips in Pittsburgh. Calgary's still got a great team. But there's some teams at the windows like, San Jose. How many more years is San Jose going to have it in the tank kind of thing? So should be interesting in that regard as well. The Boston Bruins play the Carolina Hurricanes tonight. I would be shocked if I guess I wouldn't be shocked. Carolina could win tonight, but I just think they're mentally drained. I think that's the big difference is Brad Marchand stirred them all up after they were already mentally tired. Boston's been there and done that. They know exactly how to pace themselves for the marathon that is the playoffs, and with the emotional swings and the massive upsets that the Carolina Hurricanes have endured with their younger team, I think they're spent. I just think mentally they are done, and that happens. And they've had a great run, but I think Boston's going to squeeze them here. If Boston doesn't win tonight, they're certainly going to win at home this weekend. So Boston's going to have I would say Boston's going to have a good solid week before the NHL playoff finals begin. And I would expect the NHL playoffs to probably begin maybe as early as next Saturday, depending on how things roll in the San Jose St. Louis series. If San Jose happens to win, and trust me, there's going to be a lot of power plays given to St. Louis on Game 4 to make up, because it's just the way it is. They know they screwed up, and they're going to try to make it up. So if you're San Jose, you better be prepared to be killing penalties in Game 4, because that's what's going to happen. But if San Jose ended up winning that game and going up 3-1, you got to figure going back home with a chance to close it out. I think there's at least one, if not two more overtime games left in this series, and I still think St. Louis is a good team, and I think we could see 7 games. So, if Boston wraps it up tonight, they could get a nice 10-day rest, which is huge. In other news, the PGA Championship starts this weekend. It's actually starting today. Bethpage Black, and that should be exciting because this was a tournament that was traditionally in August. I always loved it in August as well, but I think they're trying to prop up the FedEx Cup, and they want that to be the center stage in August and September, not to mention the Ryder Cup. So this year it's going to be held this weekend, and we got some great tournaments coming up. We got the Canadian Open coming in the second week of June, and then the following weekend we have the U.S. Open, and we also have the British Open coming up. So we got a lot of big tournaments coming up here, and it's exciting. Golf season is in full swing now, and we'll see who comes out on top this weekend. And then finally, for the long weekend, of course, every Victoria Day long weekend, we have the Memorial Cup. So the Memorial Cup is going to be held in Halifax this year. First game goes tomorrow night. Host team Halifax plays, and the Halifax Mooseheads are going to be they're going to be the host this year. Sometimes the host ends up being the champion of the league. But the teams this year in the queue, the winner was the Rio-Noranda Huskies, and in the OHL, obviously the Guelph Storm beat the Ottawa 67, so Guelph will be the OHL representative. And then the Prince Albert Raiders are going back as WHL champions, and they defeated Vancouver in a very exciting Game 7 overtime earlier this week. And of course the MVPs, Nick Suzuki won the MVP. He's a Montreal prospect for the Guelph Storm in the OHL playoffs. And in Toronto also had an MVP of the WHL playoffs, Ian Scott. He's one of their goaltending prospects. And your stat of the day, your stat of the day today is, of the 4 OHL teams, or not OHL teams, but of the 4 CHL teams that are in the Memorial Cup, 3 of them have already won. Halifax Mooseheads won in 2013. The Prince Albert Raiders, who I believe were led with some pretty good players in 1985, won the Memorial Cup. And then the Guelph Storm have never won the Memorial Cup, but the city of Guelph has. And I had to look this up, but the city of Guelph has actually won 2 Memorial Cups. The Guelph Platers in 1986, so the year after the Raiders. So there's a bit of drought there for both those teams. Of course, the Guelph Platers went on to move to Owen Sound and become the Owen Sound Platers and then the Owen Sound Attack in 2000. And then Guelph also won it in 1952, the Guelph Mad Hatters, which might be the only team I've ever heard called the Mad Hatters. So they won as well. So good luck to all the teams. Good luck to all the golfers. And let's go Raptors on Friday night. For those of you that are looking for some fun and laughs, I will be in London area next Friday night. So cheers. DWG coming at you just once this week. And let's have some fun this weekend.